Hello guys, and welcome to Strategic Command World War II World at War, with our first ever PvP against SirTravis. Today is a bit of an unfortunate day, and you'll see why in a minute. A day that I hoped would not be here yet has arrived, and I ended up unprepared in the worst of ways. And you can see it unfolding before our eyes. He sends this destroyer going around looking for anything it can find. Ooh. I was unaware about this, so he moved one of his subs over here. Wow, the one place I didn't defend. Naturally, right? An amphibious landing, taking Mahuro and Kwajalein in the same turn. And he dealt a little bit of damage to one of our Special Forces units, as we can see. So the Marshall Islands are under attack a couple years earlier than historically. Makes sense from a player perspective, I suppose. Ooh, but 7 damage to a British cruiser. And then here come the destroyers. However, the destroyers should have run into the sub. We're dealing amazing damage. Oh my gosh, that was amazing damage dealt to his ships there. Almost makes up for the fact that we just lost Kwajalein and Mahuro. Majuro? I don't know. That's American. Oh. Oh gosh. Alright, well, British carrier. Sub diving. Enemies moving, alright. Attacks naturally on the Finns over by the border. Exactly what I would expect. But what's he gonna do? His unit's up there. Really? He left that unit up there to die? Oh, this is a bit of a back and forth turn. Things are still generally going very well for us, realistically, but we have to talk about some things. Heavy fighting on the Marshall Islands. US forces close in on Japan. Yeah. And we got some raiding. Portugal went 17% towards the Allies, and we lost Kwajalein, which is not very great. And there's a carrier right there. We got a lot to talk about, guys. We have a lot to talk about. He's got... Are those maritime bombers? We got a battleship right here. A destroyer. He's got a whole fleet. There's a whole British fucking fleet right here, dude. There's a whole British fleet right here. That's not a good sign. DEI Corp is ready. I named it the Sower Baja Corps because it's going to go chill out on Sower Baja. It's upgraded. It's good to go. We got a garrison over here that's gonna go deploy on Nagasaki. Leave that there. This Midway Corps could still be useful, as I've named it. This is Midway. We have something there right now. We didn't have anything on Wake, you know. We had nothing in the Marshall Islands. I had things on the way. The Kwajalein Corps right here. And I know there was more somewhere, right? I had more things that had gone out to sea, I'm pretty sure. Maybe not, I forget where, but we had something literally going to Kwajalein because it was the most important thing. And then Majuro, I don't know how to say that, was definitely going to be next, but Midway is definitely more important to go for, but he's active in the region. Regardless, Kwajalein is gone, we've lost it, that national morale point is gone. We do have 110 national morale, even so. Look at the graphs for Japan. Go to national morale. We'll see it did take a dip here, but it's still pretty high. There's no national morale point to retaking that. It's not a national morale point for him. And I'm sure the US morale got a little bit of a buff from that. Majuro belongs to him now. Roy Namur is the only other Marshall Island really remaining. Right here we have the Wake Corps. This one was intended for Wake over here. That's still possible. This is, like, good and bad. It simplifies my defense in that, well, now I don't have to worry about the Marshall Islands, and Kwajalein's national morale value aside, all things aside, realistically, the Marshall Islands here are not... I don't know if Eniwetok is one of the Marshall Islands, but these ones are not exceptionally important for defending against him. Now, everything we have is clearly important if he's going to attack in the way that he is attacking. Clearly. These are 3 locations that we were not able to put up any resistance because I didn't send any garrisons, and I focused on things like the invasion over here instead. Yeah, these are maritime bombers, bro. Spotting base. Well, if it's anything like my maritime bomber, which it very well could be, he could have a range of 8 with that spotting. He could see a lot of this. He asked about a light cruiser. I didn't really answer him. But he probably knows this is here. He probably knows this is coming. He probably knows what's happening. I can't do a whole lot with this without like going around the other way. So that's a little bit unfortunate. That's kind of getting in my way a little bit. It is a shame, but you know, this is the sign of his first offensive. It was probably like over 100 EPPs just to load up those special forces. He's gonna have to like either move one by land. I don't know if this is possible from here to here. Roy Namur. I don't know if there's really not a point to going to Roy Namur at this point. There really isn't. We have to defend Wake. We have to get these special forces out of Midway somehow. I don't know how that's really going to be possible considering how this works. Hell, it might be better to just transport them away first and then get them set up for that later, because just sitting here idly is not going to be the smartest thing. And then we still need to get someone over to someone proper, a core to like Nauru, for example. Now, this also proves to me, I know that his attack on Japan, that was bullshit. He was bullshitting when he said that was going to happen. I'm very interested to see that there's a lot of American ships over here. There's Americans over here. That is quite interesting. I think he might have expected me to go for India in some naval capacity, or maybe he wants to strike from the side or something like that. I'm not really sure, because the Singapore Expedition, Lanchow, North Garrison, that's right, I have this set up like this. If I operate this, can we get you up to Lanchow? We can get you sort of close to Lanchow. Lanchow Garrison, so this is Lanchow Garrison, and then we got Lanchow Northeast Garrison, I think just like straight north. Right there is what I meant. North Garrison, oh yeah, north, I wrote north. Okay, cool. So we'll just move this over where it can get to, right there. We do have a core dedicated for defending Singapore. That is pretty important. Taking Brunei and Kuching is still going to be important. I'm taking over a lot of things, so losing the Marshall Islands isn't exactly a super consequential thing that I like really need to worry about or anything. But it goes to show we do need to start defending these Pacific Islands as soon as possible, because it is just very, very necessary. Well, that's the analysis anyway, or at least a good bit of it. There's even more to look at in Europe. But let's just start getting some little things this turn out of the way. So both paths going through China here are actually a little bit blocked. Let's move up the Central Expedition Army here, and we'll find the Xi'an Corps. Xi'an Corps is over here, getting in our way. We can move the 13th Army forward to claim Ningxia for ourselves. It was really an optional thing, not really necessary. Move the 21st Army forward. We find a garrison and an HQ that can be made quick work of. Going for that garrison first probably makes the most sense. You know, it's entrenched there. We could go take that city now. And the HQ could move up. Could stay where it is. I don't know, it's really probably just move up for now. Go ahead and move that up. Yeah, supply will look a little bit better here, it seems. These guys don't really have enough supply to move very much, but they at least have mobility. This arty's not getting anywhere further than Lanchow for now. And I guess I'll send this one north. Well, we don't actually own this yet, so I don't need to yet. That's not the case. We need to focus heading west. These RD might not even be needed. Honestly, the way I saw this war going and why I paid for this RD is because I thought he would focus more on defending all of China and not just the front of China. Because I feel like that's what I would do, right? Spoilers to a potential rematch. I'm going to move the 1st Heavy Artillery west for now. Because again, we don't own this. We don't have to worry about this just yet. Not just yet. I will force march, let's say. It doesn't even need to be force marched, really. What's supply like in this region? It's not amazing, no matter how you look at it. Well, alright, then in that case, I will force march this garrison up, the Lanchow garrison. Maybe these will swap names. I don't really know yet. We have a lot of things headed for a lot of different places, a lot of things that need different names at this point, like the Roy Namur Corps. But I gotta take this from the ground up this turn, because a lot has happened. I have indication of a Pacific invasion beginning. You know, the island hopping campaign began, and it began with the Marshall Islands instead of with the Solomon Islands, as I believe it historically started there, you know, to protect Australia, which is, he has some semblance of protecting it, but not over here. And then we have a whole carrier fleet on the move, and I don't know if this is here to counter subs. I doubt it. Considering there's also American ships here, this could either be here to protect troop movements to Britain to prepare for potential D-Day, or an Operation Torch, or we have 90% on Portugal. They're about to join the war. And so this could be to set up a perimeter to defend Portugal so that he can land troops there and then invade through Spain, hoping that he could then maybe roll through Vichy or just directly into France from here, opening up a front like this. It would be very ballsy, and he hasn't really done a lot of super ballsy things, at least not that he's committed to. But it is a bunch of things we need to keep in mind, we need to look at, observe, remember, because this kind of stuff could really affect the upcoming turns. And realistically, I'm prepared for like none of this. I am semi-prepared for D-Day, sort of, but not even exactly, really, right? So, all right. I need to continue the bombing of London. I can put 2 things attacking London at this point, realistically, since we have gotten some upgrades. But we've also had to move back with the rockets here. We've dealt 2 MPP damage here, 2 MPPs per strength point. At this point, I could just double down on London potentially. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 versus 1, 2, 3. Though I don't know, we might just do more damage to Portsmouth specifically. This is not exactly an incredibly strenuous thing to test, so let's attack. We see we do, it says 2 damage, so it might be equivalent. I don't know. I'm just going to keep it up like this for now. We are getting more range. The manual says these things are more powerful at shorter ranges when they have higher research. I'm feeling like that's maybe not the case, and that maybe going into the rocket weapons wasn't the best idea. It is still handy, right? Maybe less so this early on, but I'm at least getting results out of it. It could be most handy when it finally comes time to an invasion of the UK, where we need to soften up enemy supply at key points. That could really be useful, especially if we had the 3rd rocket. Though, if I could go back and choose whether to do this again, I maybe might not do this, because I'm not getting the results the manual said that I would get now that I've been going through these upgrades, which is unfortunate. Another real simple thing to get out of the way is we'll move the 2nd cavalry here of the Romanians through Tabriz to claim it, finding that Tehran is unclaimed. I forget if I talked about this last time that I recorded, which was that analytical intro, as probably didn't. He offered me a deal. He offered me a diplomatic deal that I would not push into the Middle East, and in return, he would not push out of the Middle East. That's what he offered me, because he feared that this was to reach Egypt, which, you know, in part it is, but also all of this oil to get this away from the UK would be invaluable. Absolutely invaluable. I thought Saudi Arabia was further along than this. Maybe not. But also to set up another potential front against India, because what if Japan doesn't really have the ability to go for this? I mean, I'm thinking about the attack on Australia, thinking that maybe we might need to move the air support over there. And if we do, you know, we're not going to have the money to start pouring into attacking and replacing losses in India. We haven't had that even so far. We've had to shift dramatically to the Pacific. And even then, I'm beginning to lose islands because I just still am not prepared. But hopefully it will pay out for Australia, and we're going to be invading Australia this turn, guys. It's happening this turn, maybe not this episode, but this turn for sure. So he offered me this deal, and when I denied it because I was like, well, that's a terrible deal for me, he took it as confirmation that this was intended for Egypt, which it partially is. And like, okay, sure. However, it's not like it's that dramatic of a thing. It's not like that's everything there is to it, because there's also setting up against India. He's probably got his Indian troops over here, if anything. How's he defending over here? Germany's doing great, so they would be easily able to probably maintain an invasion of 2 places at once. Japan is just struggling with everything they have right now, you know? So, you know, we'll see how it goes, but I'll move the 1st Romanian army now down next to Tehran to get a better look around. And yeah, Tehran is unoccupied. It's unoccupied. These 2 towns aren't worth any MPPs. Only Tehran is in what remains of Iran. Everything else worth anything is down here and was annexed by the UK and does not count as occupied. However, this stuff counts for us. He definitely has some units here because I haven't seen any partisan activity. And he did have 2 Indian units down there as it was. But I don't believe he has a lot more. He tried to make it sound to me like he has a lot more, but I don't believe he has a lot more. So we're going to go ahead and claim Tehran. That's going to liberate. We are liberating this country. It will not take place this turn, realistically. Yeah, allies occupied. They'll be liberated like as of next turn proper. Movement over here is such garbage, man, that the HQ can barely get anywhere, the Romanian HQ. We're going to move the 5th Romanian Corps over here for now. We got to go claim this because we need this rail line. If we're ever going to get the Germans from point A all the way down here, we need the rail line that goes through here, down Tehran, down to Abadan, through Iraq, but it ends right there. Still, that's a long way to rail through. I mean, well, no, it goes up here. We don't have Syria. And Syria, like... we don't have it, basically. I could invade it while I'm over here. It's leaning towards me, which would kind of be a shame then. But if I did invade it, then we would actually get access to the rail line. They're not really worth the investment of points, like 50 MPPs on and on to get Syria to join. Yeah, sure, could be cool, I guess, but they provide such little MPPs. It would be simpler to just invade them while I'm already invading down here in general. Regardless, this is kind of a long-term thing, as you may remember. I think I've been remembering to move this. I don't know. The Simovic HQ? Yeah, I think so. It's just been a long couple turns in real life. We're going to move Simovic over to Venice for right now. He's getting there. I feel like I might have forgotten to move him. Maybe. I don't know. Again, this stuff has been going on for a while. We need to keep preparing over here on this border. This border here. Supply is going to be interesting. We'll move the Amito Corps right over this way. Hey, they're facing left now. Move the Messi HQ there. That'll help supply here dramatically. Move the Syracuse Corps this way. The tank. I guess the tank would realistically... It could just go on the road, but I don't even know like if there's really a point to that. It's just that if he did invade Tunis, then he would be kind of on that border. So, yeah, and so the tanks would get an easier chance of, like, going through. But they are just tanks, which for Italy is not saying a lot, which is why I say just. They are just tanks. They're not really that incredibly important. Italy's cores are honestly way more useful, but they only have 108 MPPs and not really anything to do with them. We still can't really modify this. Well, I'm just happy that we held an income of 5 to 10 MPPs all the time from Ethiopia while investing basically nothing into it. That's pretty nice. We can't really afford anything that I want or think I need, and research is equally just unattainable right now with this amount of MPPs. So Italy is just going to be sitting on their current amount of MPPs for right now, probably. It's not really necessary, but I could upgrade this garrison with infantry weapons level 2 on Sardinia in case he decides to naval invade that. If he's going, I'll do it, right? 20 MPPs, it's not a lot. Here's why I bothered. It's because of the Marshall Islands. Because he's proven so far that he's willing to island hop on seemingly useless islands. Kwajalein had a purpose, but he went for Majuro, I don't know how to say this. And he'll probably go for Roy Namur next. And I could get units out to Roy Namur to defend it, but I don't think it's worth it. I think just giving up the Marshall Islands here in general will work just fine for right now, because we have too many other things that we need to reinforce in the meantime. I went ahead and I moved the Hanoi Corps from around here to down here. Good thing I named this, because I was looking around for like what could go to what island, so I moved these over here. I had a bit of a recording mishap there for a second. I was looking around at like everything we could do here. I'm thinking, you know, I moved also the 2 armies north from Malaya, one to Bangkok, one to Moulmein. We moved the HQ Mutagushi up this far as well. Talked about how we have the Thai corps coming, and they're coming soon. So that should be useful. If they fall, if Thailand falls, we'd lose those corps, so we gotta keep an eye on that. Just like what happened to his Malayan units that he sent out. We're gonna keep the Japs on Singapore, because I think that's the best way to handle it. For winning, I do want to definitely push an invasion of India with the Japs, because, you know, the Germans could be there kind of as a backup. We'll see, because India is The Japs, they have the capability to, you know, maybe, hopefully. Because we could lose everything else, right? The Gilbert Islands, the rest of the Marshalls, we could lose Midway, we could lose Wake, we could lose Truk, we could lose all these islands right here. We could lose the Philippines, we could get nuked, we could lose Taiwan and Okinawa, we could lose all this stuff. So long as we keep Korea, so long as we keep China, mainland Japan, so basically this stuff right here, so long as we keep Australia once we take it, if we take it, and so long as we can take and keep Delhi, those are all the victory conditions in this area. Losing the Philippines, getting nuked, sure, fine. Losing Thailand, Singapore, Malaya, Indochina, all of the DEI, you name it, Solomon Islands and the entire Pacific, I can still get a decisive victory, even if we lose all of those things. Therefore, I'm going to keep moving these units up, preparing for this invasion, you know. He might invade Malaya, I don't know, I don't really have the units to defend it very well. It's not very defensible, there's too many things to defend, we just have to like operate, that's really the best that we could do anyway. And so that is essentially how we're gonna have to roll here. Okay, once again, I forgot to unpause my recording, so let me just say what I did. I moved the 1st Kwantung Army from right here, Yinan, over this way, which is actually like a named place. What was the name of it? Arakan. And I moved the one that was on Mandalay, the North Chinese Front Army, off of Mandalay. And I moved it into the jungle here, was pretty much as far as it could get for both of them. I moved the Konglomerat HQ from right here to here, so that I would check and see that I have like at least 5 supply for both of them, more than that for this one that could potentially have elite reinforcements. The 1st Kwantung Army cannot receive reinforcements, with the idea that, you know, we have the other HQ Mutagushi's coming up with 2 more armies. I'm thinking we push forward over here, definitely. I think that would work out pretty well. And we could potentially try for another push up here. I went and moved the 11th Regional from right here to right here. It's already elite reinforcements. Could use some maybe upgrades, but it has 5 supply. That is enough. We still need to get the 17th Korean Army reinforced to really attempt to push through this pass over here. There's really only 3 real points to push, and that's through Imphal at the Kohima Pass, up by Chittagong, and up by Lido. I might try all 3 of these at once. I might try heavy at Chittagong and then partially at Lido. I don't really know. Either one of these can happen. I could technically try to bomb right now, but we could potentially be getting elite reinforcements as well. I don't know if that's in the budget yet, so I want to wait until later in the turn before I figure any of that out. And that's kind of my idea, because if Japan gets India, you know, it's worth as much as Italy, at least I think as much as the DEI. It's very important, and India I know is not very strong. I know India is not very strong. If I kill an army, it would take India 3 turns of like full focus to buy a new one. Not replace one that dies, but you know, still. If I can maintain my air power here and not send it to Australia, then you know, we're even better off than we were before. Now, we still have a little bit more up here. I know I'm jumping around a lot. It's a crazy turn, man. It's crazy. I'm gonna be recording this turn like all day. All right, Central Expedition Army. We're going to go ahead on the offensive immediately because I don't see a reason not to. 0 to 3 is amazing odds. Could it be better? Sure. Does it need to be better? No. Our supply is dog shit no matter how you look at this. We're going to end up maybe not well off next turn, but I'm going to move into the desert here. Attack again. Dealt 4 damage, took none. So he's lost 7 health off of this unit. And so it is pretty injured. We can't get flanked with these zones of control. We can't get pushed around with these zones of control. So the HQ is fine where it is for right now. Pushing supply from Golmond is probably more effective than pushing up directly behind them. At least they have enough to keep fighting, right? He probably doesn't have the MPPs. He certainly doesn't have the supply to actually reinforce this very much. So Golmond, well, no, this is Golmond. Guazhou should fall to us next turn, guaranteed, allowing us to push up towards the Barkle Pass, which will eventually, you know, all of this will link up, I guess, at some point. And for a final push on Urumqi to take China. And then I really don't know what we're doing with the rest of these units after that. I could try to march them down to the northern Indian border here. That would be a little rough. It would be pretty much like retracing my steps this way and then going down here. And then even so, like the road doesn't even fully connect there. So that would be very interesting. I might need to invade Nepal just to really get through there. And I mean, that would be worth it. Now, what's Nepal going to do, you know? Nothing. They're going to provide me 5 MPPs a turn is what they're going to do. Or I could just march them back out east and just leave India to what we have right here. We'll have to see how this all goes as time goes on to really figure out what we're going to do there. This corps was destined for truck. I don't know if it's still going to be destined for truck at this point, but we can definitely spend its action points to get it moving down where it needs to go. We still have these other 2 armies. Well, 2, right? Armies that were destined for over here. They're not all necessarily going to end up there. Here's the other one, the Kwantung army. The going for Vladivostok is still like a maybe, but an optional thing. If I do take the USSR, Japan will get half of this stuff anyway. More MPPs for them will be invaluable for handling all their different fronts. So the faster the Soviets fall, really, the better at this point. And Manchuria is not actually worth a whole lot, not at all, to worry about like defending or anything. So we can take the 2nd Kwantung army and we can go ahead and force march this towards the border. We definitely won't really have it in the budget to do anything more than that. Force march, I guess we could, you know, we could, instead of going down towards Sachin, we could go down closer towards like Port Arthur. We still can't get all the way there just yet, but still, it is something. The quote-unquote Australian army needs to get closer to a port as well. Can't really reach any port in one turn, not right now, but we can at least get over to Sinan. From Xi'an to Sinan and get that ready to go somewhere. All right, so these are the sub movements for this turn. The sub that was caught up in all this, I just moved back up here. It'll raid alongside the Trapper sub for right now. They have another turn before they really need to move. The Coast Guard sub moved up from, I think it was this port, up this way to kind of help raid soon because I know these guys are going to be leaving. I moved a sub from here up here. We actually saw an enemy UK sub, which further makes me think he's planning an Operation Torch or to land in Portugal and invade through Spain. One of these 2 things I'm so confident he is planning, but there's not a lot I can really do to stop him because I don't have the naval power in the region required. I moved a new sub onto Las Palmas here. Now that that sub's gone, moved any other subs in the region down here. The sub that was going to move on to Vigo, I actually moved up here. He seems to have cleared this area. I took the chance, moved another one up to Brest, the one that had just recovered over here at Vigo, so we can actually get it fully reinforced. If he does have his blockade here, he's moved it further out a little bit, enough so that I can navigate these waters just fine, and far enough so that my bombers can no longer affect him, really. At least, unless there's some like right here. Or here, where we don't really have the range necessarily to check. I could take a random guess, but it's really just going to be that, pretty much random. How far can we reach in one direction? I don't think he would have left any right here. He might have some kind of in the region, because he's moving ships, but we don't necessarily want to put any MPPs towards that right now. So I think the current sub movements are fine and will suffice. So I've kind of handled all of the periphery of this turn, plus the reaction to his turn and any planning or observations. And we've kind of taken care of all that, plus essentially all of Italy. So what we have remaining is the main front with Germany against the Soviets, which are going to be very important to wrap up as soon as possible, even for Japan's benefit. And we have the invasion of Australia to start, which, you know, hopefully this goes well. It's going to be in waves, kind of. But that's all we have time for right now. We'll pick this up in the next episodes. For now, thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.